The morning sun painted the village of Aburi in shades of gold, but 12-year-old Kofi saw colors that others couldn't name. He watched from his mother's doorway as the market came alive, vendors calling out their wares in voices that rang like bells. Kofi's lips remained sealed, as they had been since the day he was born. "Kofi, come help me with these yams!" His mother, Essie, called him inside. She didn't expect an answer. She never did. Kofi lifted the heavy basket, his thin arms straining. His mother touched his cheek gently. "My beautiful, silent boy, what thoughts live in that head of yours?" If only she knew. Kofi's mind was a storm of words, stories, and songs. They swirled inside him constantly, pressing against his chest, begging to escape. But his voice had built a prison around them. At the village school, Teacher Kwame stood before the open-air classroom. "Today we will share stories from our families. Who wants to begin?" Hands shot up eagerly. Everyone except Kofi. He sat at the back, his fingers tracing invisible patterns on the wooden desk. In his mind, he was telling the story of his grandfather, a hunter who once faced a leopard with nothing but courage. He could see every detail, the spotted coat gleaming in moonlight, the yellow eyes burning with hunger. The story was vivid, alive, desperate to be told. But his tongue was a dead thing in his mouth. "Kofi!" Teacher Kwame's voice pulled him back. The entire class turned to stare. "Would you like to share?" The silence stretched. Some children giggled. Kofi opened his mouth, willing sound to emerge. His throat constricted. Nothing came. "It's okay," Teacher Kwame said softly, but his eyes held pity, that terrible, suffocating pity that followed Kofi everywhere. "Perhaps tomorrow." During break, Kofi sat under the baobab tree, away from the playing children. He picked up a stick and began drawing in the dirt. Lines became shapes. Shapes became a leopard, crouched and ready to spring. Then a man with a spear. Then the moon watching over them both. "What's that supposed to be?" The voice belonged to Kwabena, the chief's son. He stood over Kofi with two friends flanking him. "Oh wait, I forgot. You can't tell us, can you?" The boys laughed. Kwabena's foot swept across the dirt, erasing the leopard, the hunter, the moon, erasing everything. Useless drawings from a useless boy. Kofi's chest tightened. He stood and walked away, his hands balled into fists, his heart screaming words his mouth would never release. He ran past the school, past the market until he reached the edge of the village where the forest began. Hidden behind the roots of an ancient tree, Kofi finally allowed himself to cry. The sobs came silently. Even his grief had no voice. "Child, why do you weep?" Kofi's head snapped up. An elderly man stood before him, leaning on a carved walking stick. His white hair formed a cloud around his dark face. Kofi couldn't answer. He could only stare. The old man lowered himself to the ground. "I am Nana Yao. I've been away from this village for many years, but I have returned." He studied Kofi's tear-streaked face. "You're Essie's boy, the one who doesn't speak?" He reached into a woven bag and pulled out something wrapped in cloth. "I brought gifts for the village. This one is meant for you." He unwrapped the cloth to reveal bundles of natural pigments, rich reds, deep blues, golden yellows, earthy browns, along with pieces of charcoal and smooth stones. Kofi's breath caught. His fingers reached out, trembling. "Take them," Nanayal said. "There are many languages in this world. Some people speak with their mouths, but others speak with their hands, their hearts. Perhaps you simply haven't found your language yet." Kofi gathered the precious gifts to his chest, his eyes wide with wonder. Nanayal smiled. "Go home, child. Discover what your hands want to say." That night, after his parents slept, Kofi sat in his small room by lamplight. His hands shook as he mixed the pigments with water. Then on the smooth mud wall, he began to paint. His hand moved without thinking, guided by something deeper than thought. He painted the leopard from his grandfather's story. But this leopard was alive. Its eyes blazed with hunger and intelligence. Its muscles coiled beneath spotted fur. And there, facing it, stood his grandfather, young and strong, his spear raised not in violence, but in respect. Two warriors acknowledging each other. He painted until his fingers cramped and his eyes burned. He painted the moon, large and silver, watching over the scene. He painted courage and fear and the thin line between them. When he finally stepped back, his heart was pounding. On the wall before him was the story he'd been trying to tell. Every detail his mind had screened in silence was now visible, real, undeniable. For the first time in his life, Kofi felt heard. The morning light revealed his secret. His mother's scream woke the compound. "Kwame! Kwame! Come quickly!" Kofi's father burst in. "What's wrong?" Then he saw the wall. His mouth fell open. Essie stood frozen, her hand pressed to her chest. Kofi shrunk into the corner, terrified they'd scrub away his voice. "This is your father's father," she whispered, moving closer. Her fingers traced the leopard's outline. "This is the story he told you before he passed. You remember. You remember everything." Kwame knelt beside Kofi, pulling him into his arms. "My son," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I never knew. I never understood what lived inside you." But as days passed, Kwame's wonder faded into worry. "Art is beautiful," he told Essie while Kofi pretended to sleep. "But it cannot fill a belly. It cannot build a house. The boy needs to learn a trade, something practical. He has found something that makes him happy. Something that lets him express what's inside." "Happiness doesn't feed a family," Kwame said firmly. "Tomorrow he comes with me to learn carpentry. This dreaming must end." Kofi heard every word. That night, he painted frantically on stones, bark, the compound floor, as if he could prove the value of his gift before it was taken away. He was so absorbed, he didn't notice the figure watching him. "The elder spoke truly," a woman's voice said. "There is a rare gift here." Kofi spun around. A tall woman stood in moonlight, gray threading through her dark hair. She wore city clothes, but moved with village grace. "I am Amma. I was born in this village 50 years ago, left to study art in the city, and now I've returned. I've heard whispers of a mute boy who paints stories on walls." She studied his work with intense eyes. "They didn't mention the boy is a natural master." Kofi's heart raced. He pointed to himself, then to her, a question in his gesture. Amma smiled. Yes, I want to teach you, if you'll learn. She looked towards the house. But we'll need their permission. The next morning, Amma stood before Kofi's parents. Essie served water while Kwame sat with arms crossed. Your son has a gift that appears once in a generation, Amma began. I've taught art in the city for 30 years. I've seen thousands of students. Most learn technique, but technique is merely craft. Your son has vision. Vision doesn't pay school fees, Kwame said bluntly. No, Amma agreed, but neither does forcing a bird to swim or a fish to fly. You can train Kofi in carpentry, and he will be mediocre.